In this video, we're going to now set up our UI for our game. So to get started with this, we're going to create a HUD, which stands for Heads Up Display. If you look in your sprites folder here, we have our UI and we have all of our HUD items. We have an A button and a B button. So B is going to be, for instance, maybe jump or attack. A will be for jump or attack. We can decide when we get to it. Then we're going to have here our life status. We're going to have life units, so we can create our health system. And then here we're going to have our movement system, which is our thumb joystick. So to get started setting this up, we're going to create a new UI panel. So underneath our canvas here, we have our shop panel. Let's create a new panel by going to right-click, UI. We're going to create a new panel. We're going to call this HUD. So a heads-up display. From there, remove the image component, and we can begin creating our HUD. Now, to get started with this, let's go ahead and create our life bar first. So here, we're going to create a new image. So go to UI, Image, and let's call it Life Bar Graphic. So here we have Life Bar Graphic, and we're going to add our life bar. Okay, once we've done that, we then want to scale this up. We want to make this whatever the image actually is. So here it says 700 by 469. So width 700 by 469. And that's going to give us our UI. Where we want to place this now is going to be in the left corner. So here we're going to go ahead and anchor this. And we'll say top left over here. And then we can set the position to about 0 and so forth. All right, and then we can go ahead and position it. So position on the X, let's bring it in. We want to make sure we can see this. So let's find it. Okay. All right, and we want to go ahead and position this basically at the corner of our game screen. So I'd say right about here is good. All right, once we have that life bar there, so about 460 by negative 271 on the Y. All right, so once we have that, we can then add our joystick right below it. So let's create another image. So go to UI Image. And this is going to add our joystick. So thumb button. And let's rename this to joystick. Okay, here's our joystick. And the joystick image is going to be 512 by 512. So let's change it to 512 by 512. And we're going to position this in the bottom left corner. So we can go ahead and set this to 0, position 0, and then move it up to where we want it. So about right here. About right there is where we're going to want it. So that's going to be used for our movement. And then now we have our A and B buttons. So let's create another image, UI, Image. And we'll call this B button. All right, and we'll be able to add functionality for it to be a button later. But for now, we'll go ahead and add a B button. So here we have our B button image. Add that. Once you've done that, let's increase the width and height to be 256 by 256. And we'll anchor this as well. We'll anchor this, just keep it centered for now. All right, so here we go with our B button. Let's move that down here. All right, so here we'll have our B button, and then we'll have our A button as well. All right, let's duplicate B button, and let's call it A button. Once you have that, drag the A button into the source image, and we can move it. So about right there. So here we have our game. So here you can move around. Imagine if you're holding your phone horizontally, you can move around and you have your B and A buttons. And then you have your life image on top there. So it's going to have a section for us to have some gem count text. Also, it's going to have a life unit. So our character is going to have 4 life units. So let's go ahead and create those. So inside here, we're going to create a new image. And let's call it life unit. So here, life unit. And then within that, we'll create another image, or actually this will be a holder unit, a holder item for all of our life units. So let's go ahead and actually just remove this, and let's create an empty object to store them in. So just create an empty object, and let's call this life units. All right, so here's life units, and within that, we're gonna have life. So let's go ahead and create some images. This will be unit 1, and we'll create 4 more. All right, and we'll rename them to unit 2 and so forth. Unit 3, and unit 4. Okay, here's our life units, unit 1, 2, 3, and 4. What we can do now is select all of them. And for the source image, you're gonna add the life unit. So that's what it's going to look like. From there, what we wanna do is select the life unit image. This is a 81 by 25 image. So select all of these and make it 81 by 25. And that way we get this little health bar. Once we have them, what we're going to do is we are then going to take all of these life units. Let's remove them from the parent for now, because we need to position them first. So the life units is at 0, 0. These individual units are going to be positioned within there. So let's go ahead and take unit 1, position it. Unit 2, position it. Take unit 3. And unit 4. Now, one thing we can do here is if we actually hold down the control key, we can shift these in like a locked position. So if you hold down the control key, it gives you more control over moving it. All right, so here we go. We have our 4 bars. That's exactly what we want. So take unit 4 through 1, unit 1, 2, 3, and 4, drag them into the life units, just so we can clean it up. Alrighty, so this is our UI. The next thing that we're gonna do now is it's a little bright on the screen, so let's go ahead and just dim it down a bit. So to do that, we're simply going to just take the alpha of these guys and just bring it down to about 100. So the life can stay as is, but we'll go ahead and make the joystick and A and B buttons, and we'll set them down to about 100 alpha. That way it's kind of faded. Okay, let's get rid of this error. Just clear it. Alrighty. The next thing we want to do here is we have a count for how many gems we collect. So let's go ahead and create some text for that. So we're going to create a new UI object, text. This is going to be gem count. And let's go ahead and just put 54 in, for example. All right, and let's find where this gem count currently exists. So it's over here. We want this to be anchored in the top left, and then set the position to about 0, 0, and let's move it in. So it's over here. All right, and it's we need to increase the size because we can barely see it. Let's also make it white. All right, and change the horizontal overflow to overflow so we can actually see it. And same for the vertical. That way we can actually see the text. So now once we've done that, if you actually select the text, we want to make the text the property, the font size, we can probably keep it at about 54, but we do have a custom font for this. So if you actually look inside of your UI here, we should have a fonts folder. Or if we look inside our sprites folder here, we have a fonts folder. We're going to use this font. So on the gem count, let's go ahead and replace the font from Arial to this Charlemagne. And there we go. That gives us a much cooler look. All right, so for this 54, we can then go ahead and place this about here in the center. And we should be good to go. So now as we collect gems, we'll be able to increment this value, and this will represent how many gems our player has. From there, we have our life support. So as we lose a life, we'll be able to subtract 1, so it's going to look like this. Once you get hit once, we're going to take unit 4, turn it off. Once you get hit twice, we'll take unit 3, turn it off, and so forth. So we're going to create all these systems in the coming videos. I'll see you guys then.